Good morning, church. It's so good to have you guys here this morning, and I want to ask you to start the sermon. Just be honest, okay? Who here likes money? Raise your hand. You like money. You kind of like a chalk. Should I say that, church? Is money a good thing? I want to just do another question. Who think that money is important? Raise your hand. I would say 100% of the people, right? We have this idea of money can be really good, a blessing, or it can destroy you. And we are, next week, we're going to end this series that we just started like 2 months ago, and we're going to talk about money. Maybe this is the reason Pastor Felipe is not here to say, can you preach the sermon? It's quite hard to preach about money and keep his cane. Come on. But I just want to say to you guys, I'm so excited because we're going to look at the letter of Galatians, but I'm going to tell you a story before because every single day when I go to bed, I normally, before I just have a moment with my kids, and my boy, Luca, he just became 9 last week. He asked me a really interesting question. He says, Dad, can I pray to become a millionaire? And I just asked him, why are you going to pray for that? No, Dad, I just want to have some money, when I grow up. So can I pray that Jesus can give me some money? He says, how much money you want to make? Not that much. I just want to have the same amount of money that Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. And I said, yeah, for sure you can pray because if you get that amount of money, you're going to bless Daddy. You cost so much here, So, yeah, and that led me think about this because I was just trying to talk to him and say, hey, money is not the problem. It's actually what money is going to do to you. And so people, they really believe that money can be their God. We are trying to find the money. And Paul is going to talk about this in this letter of the Galatians. But that made me think about this story happened just at the end of the pandemic. I don't know if you remember those days. It was crazy. So about 3 years ago, we just facing the hardest moments. It was in the end of the pandemic. And so I used to go to church. And back then, I think I had a third of the church there. So I would preach a sermon, broadcast, people stay back home. And we used to have some kids program as well. So during the meeting that we had, a broadcast says, hey, if you have kids at home, there is a QR code here. We just record something really special for your kids. So when I finished my sermon that Sunday morning, I was driving back home. And when I got there, my son, Luca, he was holding some of the bags. The bags actually you get when you go to kids' birthday with the candies inside? And I have to tell this thing, right? My wife, she's a nutritionist, kids nutritionist. So my kids, they love to eat vegetables, all that kind of stuff. And so they're not allowed to have all the candies that they want. So if you want to be a friend of my kids, just give a candy because they don't have it. And they're so polite, they're going to say thank you. And for example, if you give a Nutella to my kid, they're going to love you. They're going to worship you, right? So the bags with the candies is such an important thing for them because once a year. And they're really excited on that party. My boy just had a party a day before this Sunday that I was there. And he was really happy with the friends that they had there. But he noticed already there was some friends of him that was missing the party. So it was hey, I had 3 friends that didn't come, so we're going to have some spare candy bags. So he was making this account on his head. Look at that. When the party was end, he came to me and my wife says, hey, Mom, can I take those candies back home? She says, of course, your birthday. So the next day was a Sunday. When I get there, my boy was holding those bags, and I tell you, that thing was gold for them, right? So he says, what are you holding that for? And I was going to drive to my mom's house to have a lunch on Sunday. And I was like, what, Dad? Have you not seen the kids' program this morning? The church that you were pastor says, wait, man, calm down. What are you talking about? He says, no, we just talk about generosity. And we have to do the things to others, not the things that we don't like it, but the things that we like the most. And I was like, come on, boy, preach, So he was holding that. He says, where are you taking that? To grandma's house? He says, no. In our way, it's 40 minutes driving. We're going to stop on that sign. There was always homeless there, some kids. Can you stop the car there? Because I want to get out and I want to bless those kids. So I stopped the car there. My boy gets out. I was there with him as well. He started to give the candies to those kids who live in the street. So he gets back in the car. I was such a moving moment. I was almost crying. So the next day I was taking him to his school. And he asked me another hard question. He says, Dad, how many times have you seen Jesus? And it was like, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember now. I had some which nice experience, but I don't remember the time actually I saw physically Jesus, So what about you? Why are you asking me this? No, Dad, I saw Jesus 2 times in my life. I says, wow, can you tell me them? Yeah, one of them actually, that I was so scared to sleep by myself in my room, and you told me that if I pray, that Jesus could help me. And I remember one day I was so scared, and I prayed, and I saw Jesus. And I was like, wow. And when was the second one? He says, what do you mean, Dad? Yeah, when was the second one? He says, come on, you saw that. Well, no, I didn't. It was yesterday. Yesterday? Yeah, Dad, when you stopped that car. And I started to give the candies, Jesus was there. I saw him. And I was like, oh my gosh. There's not a problem to like money, and Paul is going to say that, but what money is doing to you. And my boy just he preached to myself that everything that we have, and the Bible is going to say that, of course you earn that money, you work really hard, but the reason actually Jesus has been blessing you, even like the intelligence that you have, the ideas that you have to be a man, a woman that has some money, is also to bless others. So Paul is end this section here on the chapter 6. We're going to read the verse 7 to 10. And he's going to say that. You remember when we started this series called Back to the Basics, and it's a basic thing in the Christianity, talking about money and what money can do to me and to your life. So this is the word of Paul in Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 to 10. Let's read the word of the Lord. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. However, sow to please their flesh, from the flesh we reap destruction. However, sow to please the Spirit, from the Spirit we reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for the proper time we reap the harvest if we don't give up. Therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of the believers. Amen. Again, I think we have to go back here just to make this theme just make more sense. Paul is writing in all the letters that we have. Half of the letters that we have, actually the books that we have in the New Testament, was letter that Paul wrote to the church that he planted. So the church of the Galatians, they understood the gospel. Paul was there. The church started really well. But after a time, there were some Jews trying to Judaize the Gentiles. So they say, hey, Paul was a really nice guy. Jesus was a nice prophet, but listen to me. It's not that simple. To get the salvation, you have to work really hard to deserve it. So Paul, we have been talking about this the past 2 months here, but Paul is now saying to them, hey, listen, one of the things actually you have to understand, because you really believe that you deserve what we have, everything that we have is given by grace. You don't deserve, but it's grace. You don't deserve, but I gave to you. Also, I'm talking about the money. Listen, it's not a problem to have money, to like money. We really believe that money is important to pay our bills and everything that actually the money can help us. But the thing is, money cannot have you. So Paul is saying, you guys that make a lot of money, you're making for one reason. Of course, you can have those things, but have one thing in mind. You have to bless others, otherwise you're going to destroy yourself. So now Paul is starting to say this, and we can just divide in 3 points here. The first one, he's going to talk about the principle of sowing and reaping. And come on, Paul is actually mentioning here this principle transcend the agriculture. It's not just about, okay, I'm going to plant this, so I'm going to sow this, and I'm going to reap. No, it's going to talk about life. So if you sow in love, you're going to reap love. If you sow time with your kids, you're going to reap that kind of stuff. So Paul is bringing here this idea, this principle. This is the reason actually he started in verse 7 saying, the man reaps what he sows. And I believe you guys believe in this as well. The question is, what actually we are sowing? And that is a really good question actually we can ask ourselves, because sometimes we want to reap some stuff, but we're not sowing the right way. So I remember before I was getting married, and my family is a Christian. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law are here as well. I remember, I was trying to impress them as well, so they can actually say, hey, you can marry my daughter. So I was trying to be the nicest person. I'm a nice person, but when you're trying to impress your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, so I said, hey, can we just pray about our future? And we start to read some books, and there was this book that just changed my life, literally. It's wrote by this guy called Gary Chapman, and he writes about the 5 ways that you can show love or you receive love, the 5 love languages. And basically, he's going to say this. The way actually we feel love is about like words of affirmation, quality time, can be gifts, can be acts of service, or physical touch, right? So everyone in this room, there is a specific way that you feel more love. So for example, the way that I feel love is word of affirmation. So every time, for example, I'm washing the dishes, and I know my wife does like every single day, and I help a lot at home, but what I'm doing, I really want her to notice that I'm done. So when I do the dishes, sometimes she just passes and see the kitchen's clean. She doesn't even say anything. And I was like, hey, can you just, I don't know how many of you guys agree with me. Maybe the way you feel love is word of affirmation. My wife, the way that she feels love is quality time. And it's hard because, when you work so hard, then you think, no, I just need to have some time with my wife. It's not just time. It's a time with quality. So you have to be there. Sometimes it's like me and her in the restaurant, and it's like, hey, you're not here. What do you mean you're not here? No. You're physically here, but you're not thinking about this moment. So she loves and she feels love with quality time. The other way that I feel love is physical touch. So every single morning, this is amazing what happened here. Since I arrived here 10 months ago, I have this time. We get up like 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 to 7:37. Don't ask me why that number, but it's actually the way the alarms works in our house. I stay with my kids on my bed, just like we do what we say chameguinho, just like, playing with the kids for 37 minutes and I love when they just like hug me. This is the way I feel love. There is many things, and you can bring this to with your spouse or your wedding, or not even like if you're not married. You feel love in a specific way. And because I feel love with words of affirmation, sometimes I want to show love in the way actually that I feel love. So I give you 100%. Listen, I do this every single day. My wife just change her clothes. Says, this clothes is amazing. Hey, your hair is amazing. You just did your nail. You are gorgeous. You are all the time. She's like, Gui, okay, thank you. It's because that's the way actually that I feel love. So doesn't mean that I'm sowing the right way. I have to understand what I'm sowing for. So Paul is bringing this idea here because this is a good question for us to ask to our hearts. What are we sowing? And we have to understand this principle that Paul is actually trying to teach us, the principle of sowing and reaping. And I learned that principle about 15 years ago. I was just starting my ministry, I was just finishing my seminary back in Brazil, and I remember that there was a group from England. They want to go to our city to bless a specific place in Brazil called Sertão. Sertão is a kind of place like this. It's really dry. It's a kind of the desert, and you maybe think, this is really far from the big cities. It's like 2 hours driving from my city. In northeast of Brazil, some people doesn't have water, and they pray so they can have some rains, maybe like 2 or 3 days per year. So when rains, you're gonna see a place like this, and not just for the animals that use that water, but some people, they would like walk 5-10 miles to get like a bucket of water and take back home. So this is the kind of thing. This is not Africa. This is Brazil, right? So I just received this group of 15 like teenagers from England. They had the money. We were gonna build some houses to help some organization to Sertão, and we have this idea because we are taking money or we're gonna bless. We are the ones we're gonna be in charge. We are living here our neighborhood so we can bless that city. The gospel is the complete opposite. This is why Jesus say, hey, do you think that is good to receive? Is even better to give. And you understand when you start to do those kind of things. So as a pastor, I was traveling to bless that place over there. So we got there. We stayed 15 days, building the house, doing so many things. On the last day, I met this boy called John. We are sitting under the tree. And he was like, Pastor, can I tell you a story? My story. He says, of course, just share with us here. I was me and some of the group, like about 7 or 6 of just like talking to this boy. And this boy was so clever. He was like, Pastor, my mom is from the Assembly of God, So I was just baptized, and I understood the gospel, but I'm telling you one thing. One thing was really hard for me to understand. I had to give 10% of my income into the church. And I was like, hey, don't even talk about this, tithing and giving. You're just a kid. You don't have to be concerned about this. I said, what do you mean, Pastor? And I was trying, to be nice to that boy. And I was like, so you work, how you make your money? He says, listen, Pastor, every single day I go to church in the afternoon because in Brazil you have two turns, right? You can choose to be in school in the morning or afternoon. So he was studying in the afternoon. And during the whole morning, he was working with his dad on the farm, so taking care of the animals there. And he told me, he says, listen, work for your dad is not easy. I'm like, you're not going to get paid, Pastor. So I know what you're talking about. So what I decided to do to make some money, I go to those places, kind of the lake, to get the water so I can sell. Some people, they cannot make it. They don't have strength to go and walk like 5 miles. So I go there, get the water, and I realized that people are selling for 2 reais, like 50 cents. And because I was starting my business, listen, that was the word of a boy 9 years old. I started to charge 1 real so I can some people actually start to buy my water. So I used to wake up 4:30 in the morning, go there, get one water, bring back, charge 1 real, and I used to do like 2 or 3 times before I go to work with my dad. And guess what, Pastor? That was really hard the first time I was going to give my money, or 10% of the tithing and giving in the church, because I had to give 4 reais. It's less than $1. When that boy told me that again, I said, listen, you don't have to be concerned about God, God loves you, So he says, no, let me tell you a miracle, Pastor. Do you know what happened last month? Because I get my clients, so now I start to charge 2 reais. And guess what? Yesterday, I had the privilege to give 11 reais on my church. That was my 10%. And this boy just asked for excuse, and he just disappeared for 10 minutes, and 10 minutes later, he was back on the area over there. And he brought some bread with some drinks, some Coke, some Guaraná. And he put on the table there, and we started to eat. I was like, hey, who bought this? I mean, like, who was the person? He was like, it was me, Pastor. No, I'm going to give you the money. He says, no. Hey, you guys came to bless us. I don't know if I'm going to see you again in my whole life. So I want to bless you guys. That was the last time I saw that boy, 15 years ago. And that boy used these words. I understood the principle of generosity. And 15 years after, that story that just really moved me, I'm sure that you are being blessed by the story of that kid. Because it's actually what the money does when they go to the right place. And I remember that boy telling me that, because there is a thing that actually we sometimes plan to say, I'm going to be generous when I get money, when I find a new job, when I get a lot of money, I'm going to start to be a blessing to others. This is a lie. Because, guys, generosity is a principle. It's a principle. No matter how much you receive. That boy was a blessing to my life, and I'm never going to forget the lesson that boy 9 years old just told me. And sometimes we have so much. We have everything, and we're still complaining. So Paul wants to talk about the second thing on this 4 verse that we read. The second principle here is going to be, you have to understand the importance of generosity. And this is why he started with the verse 8 saying, however, so to pleasure their flesh, from the flesh we reap destruction. However, so to pleasure the Spirit, from the Spirit we reap eternal life. Again, Paul is talking to that church that understood the gospel. Some of them actually start to find another ways, trying to find the salvation by the works of the Lord. Pastor Felipe preached about this last Sunday, that some people actually they feel that they're just stuck. And he talk about the fruit of the Spirit, the work of the Lord, right? Remember last week, Pastor Felipe was preaching about this. And again, Paul is saying, if you're using your money just to pleasure your own, your flesh, your family, it's just about you, you're going to find destruction because money is going to destroy you. And we know this. There are so many people that actually we say, I want to have that amount of money because if I get that, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be happy. And this is not the truth. There were so many billionaires thinking about like taking their lives because money cannot, I'm saying that money can be a blast but can destroy. So it's really interesting. Paul is trying to ask this question to the church of the Galatians and for me and you as well. Why we are so crazy about money? Have you ever thought about this? Why we are so crazy about money? You maybe can say because you want to buy a house or you want to have a better life. But that question is answered in one way. It's because we think that money can save us. The whole world, they think that money can save you, can save us. If I have that amount of money, listen, I'm saved. So we start to worship the money. We start, everything that we do in life is about, hey, I need to have like a really nice bank account. I need to have that. So look what Jesus is going to say in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to 21. Do not store up yourselves treasure on earth, where the moth and the worms destroy, and where the thief breaks and steal. But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where the moth and the worms cannot destroy, and where the thief do not break and steal. For where your treasure is, there's the heart will be also. Wow. Where's your money? Maybe that is where your heart. And this is why, guys, we get so many times lost. We get sad. Whatever, I don't know about you, but so many times we have some plans in our life and we say, if I have this, I'm not going to ask anything else, the Lord. And maybe you pray for your house, your marriage, all things. We have those subjects. And I'm not saying you cannot pray for that. But you agree with me, when you get that thing, the same feeling that you have before is there because you're trying to get something else. And why is that? So we are trying to have here on earth a glimpse of eternity. Let me explain to you. I was having this conversation with Pastor Felipe this week, and I was like, hey, Pastor, have you ever experienced just tell me some experience that you just felt like, hey, this is heaven. I don't know if you like maybe when you have like a food that really like it. I have Jason, he is a good chef, and this guy knows how to cook, So sometimes when you have that kind of food, you're like, hey, this is heaven. If you're Brazilian, when you taste like a brigadeiro or whatever, it's like, oh, this is heaven, what a nice barbecue, right? I don't know about some foods that you really like it. This is heaven. But also, we have those things with some experience in life. So, real story. The first time I was in the Avatar ride, I don't know how many of you guys have been there, the Avatar ride. Seriously. I was so impressed. When you get that, the Pandora, it's just like, I can't believe this has happened. How can somebody just make this? And the ride, listen, I'm not getting anything from Disney. It's just not like, I'm just saying the experience that I had there, sitting on that thing, and it's just like, you really think that you are flying. Man, it's just like, heaven's going to be something like this, You can go all over the place, and you just feel like the animals like breathing in your leg. It's just amazing. I promise you, when we got out there, my wife was crying. She's like, what experience was that? And the Bible's going to say that the creation is going to reveal God. And seriously, I was like, man, how much like money was invested here? How many people was thinking about this project to make this experience? But also, last night, I had this experience. I was with my boy in a concert with Brandon Lake, and I just felt that way. That was a picture someone took. And it was me and Luca there. And when I saw my kid just raising his hand and worshiping Jesus, I just felt that way. And there was like 10,000 people using the bracelets, I was like, man, heaven's going to be something like this. Everyone singing the same voice, same language. And that was a glimpse of eternity. So I was talking to Pastor Felipe. Hey, Pastor Felipe, just tell me some experience that you had that you just feel like, man, it was crazy. And Pastor Felipe goes like this, oh, man, I went to the Apple store, man. What experience, man. Have you guys tried this? This is the Apple Visual. It's a new, listen, I'm not getting anything from Apple, so. Well, he was telling me, bro, what a nice experience, man. Unbelievable. You should go there, man. So last Monday, I was at the Brickell Mall there, and I tried that thing. is amazing. It's just crazy. It's just like, how did somebody just created this? And those experiences, they're really nice, and I don't know what kind of experience they can say, hey, I just felt that way once. Why do we get so excited about some of those experiences? Because we, as a human created, we seek for eternity. Listen, the plan, the original plan, before sin, nobody would face death. Be honest with me, how many times have you just thought about yourself, you're thinking about, hey, I'm getting old, what's going to happen? I'm going to die, where I'm going to go? We get stuck on that thought. Come on. What's going to be? Who is saying the right, who is preaching the right message? So this religion say this one say this, and we get stuck on sometimes when you think about death. Because we're not created to that. And the problem here is one. We are sinners, not because we sin, but because we're born on that situation. When God created Adam and Eve and put in the garden there, he said, hey, listen, you can prove, you can taste everything. There is one tree that you cannot try on. This is the tree of the knowledge. And the people say, hey, did God knew that actually they were going to have the fruit? Of course he knew. So why he put it there? For one reason. There is no real love without a choice. There is no real love without a choice. So you guys can prove anything, but not this. You know what happened? When they proved that, what happened? They were exiled from the paradise. So our God, our Lord, he put on us this willing of being eternal. If you ask those people, the most like rich person in the whole planet, they're trying to find one thing. Longevity. They want to stay here for as long as they can. They're scared about the future, but they cannot resolve that. So think with me here. The problem of the whole planet is one. Whatever is the plan that we mess up, Jesus is the one who's going to take care of everything. This is why we say the gospel. We call the first 4 books in the New Testament the gospel because it means the good news. This is the story of Jesus. So because of the sin, and you can agree with me, and you listen, if you don't believe that everyone is a sinner, even like a baby, I'm going to show you that I can prove my point here. If you have a boy, 2 years old, 3 years old, and you play, you say, hey, there is one place you cannot go here. Don't go upstairs. Where's the place they really want to go? Man, it's unbelievable because they're already a sinner. They're born like this. It's not because they become, no, they're born in this situation. How beautiful is this? Look. So everyone on this planet, the whole world, we are born outside of our house. So the problem with humanity is one. We are missing home. But the problem is we don't know. We cannot find the way. So there is so many options that people are going to say, hey, choose this way, you're going to be happy. Choose this way, you're going to be happy. Choose this way, you're going to be happy. And the people are lost. We are trying to find a way back home. You guys know, maybe I know Charlie is the one who actually travels a lot and he stays in really nice hotels. I know, listen, Charlie, but I'm going to ask you, what is the best bed in the whole planet? I'm sure it's the one he has in his house. You can travel over the place, nice, really nice hotels, but when you come back home, the same smell, your kids are there, you love your bed. Your pillow, nothing compared to your pillow. Come on. Because you miss that place. It's the same. But the problem is, nobody knows where is the way to their house. So they're trying to find so many places to salvation, guys. And you know what happened? They got lost. So like I tell you, the problem was installed by me and you, was restored, and Jesus was the one to say. So if you talk about this and see gospel in exile, in a certain way, Jesus was exiled from heaven. Listen, he left to come here. He was born, guys, with animals all over the place. That place was horrible. And by the way, look what the word of the Lord say, Luke chapter 9, verse 58. Fox have dens, and the birds have nets, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. This is just crazy. So Jesus said, hey, there is one way to point the way back to my Father. And I am the way. I am the way. You guys are trying to find salvation. You guys are trying to find heaven here. You won't. Because whatever you say that is heaven, when you get there, you're going to sense the same thing, the same feeling that you felt before. This is life. If I have this or that, no. We are missing our home. We are created to be eternal. And this is why Jesus himself said this, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. How beautiful is this? So we're trying to find a way to get salvation. Salvation is here. I don't know if you believe this, but I really believe Jesus is here this morning. And you're trying to find, how can I get salvation? Where can I go? And you are lost because you're not created to be here. There is something bigger for you. So Jesus say, hey, I'm here. I'm here to show you the way. Actually, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And no one's going to go to my Father if it's not through me. Third and lastly, Paul is trying to teach the church of the Galatians about the persistence of sowing good. Paul reminds us that we should not lose the heart of doing good. Paul is saying to me and you, listen, there is no time that you can say, okay, I just did enough. No. And the reason actually he was saying this was for two things. He was teaching the whole church, but he also was telling his testimony. Paul was the one actually used to build some tents to pay his ministry. And most of his ministry, traveling all over the place, was being support for some members that really believed the message. Says, hey, we wanna be supporting you. So, and this is actually the way he say, hey, even though if you can help the ones actually from the same family, it's gonna be a blast because the main idea is just spread the gospel. So, let me tell one thing. On this church, we don't believe on this, you have to be generous or you have to give money because now God, He has to bless you. Don't come with this mind. Hey, no. But we really believe that the money actually, that is a blessing or can be a curse, can be used. For example, have you guys seen what a nice breakfast that we have over there? The snacks, man, is every single Sunday is just improving. The chair actually that you see is someone bought like so many years ago. The lighting, the literature, everything. So some more people could come and just hear the good news of gospel. But not just this. The missionaries that we help, the social programs that we have in Brazil, so many things actually is happening. So your money, you can use for yourself, but Paul is saying, hey, be careful. You're going to destroy yourself. But when you see as a great opportunity to use that money to bless others, you're going to see how much blessed you're going to be. So we don't believe in this idea of you have to do, and some people would say that, hey, it's a kind of like trade, okay? So you give 10%, Jesus is going to give you 20%. No, this has nothing to do with the Bible. But it's actually what happens to your heart. And we really believe whatever actually we are sowing, we're going to reap. So I don't know about you, if you can say, no, I think I'm generous enough, I've been blessed so many people. Amen for that. But guys, when you start to experience some things actually that you see that how much your money can bless others, you see, hey, now I understand that it's better give than receive. With so little, you can change so many things around you. So we're going to wrap this sermon around, and I was just, maybe, I don't know how many of you ever heard about this guy called Nicholas Winton. He was born in 1909 in England. And this guy, when he was 30 years old, so 1939, he traveled with some friends to Czechoslovakia. Is that the right name, Czechoslovakia? In English as well, Czechoslovakia? And he was there, and he was so scared because the World War was happening. The Nazis was invading all the countries there. And he had some friends, some Jewish friends, and he knew they would be in trouble and they were gonna die. So he started to go and talk to some Jewish families. He says, listen, it's gonna be really hard, but I'm willing to take your kids to England. Can you imagine the hard decision to be like, as a parent? I mean, like, if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about here. Say, I love so much my son or my daughter that I'm gonna give my son to a stranger that wants to save them. This is crazy. What a hard decision. You know what this guy did? He spent all his money. And he put 669 kids on the train from Czechoslovakia to London. 2 days after the first train just left, a train with 250 kids could not leave Czechoslovakia. Those kids never saw their parents again. 49 years after the thing happened in 1939, nobody knew about the story. But his wife, the wife of this guy, was just cleaning the Sodom, and she just found like a book with some pictures, and I want you to see this story.
There are some stories which we're not only an audience to, but may become their participants. Nicky's story came out by accident after this scrapbook surfaced after gathering dust for decades. Once it did, though, it set about a whole chain of incredible events. That's me before I left for England. But until 1988, I had no idea who had rescued me from all but certain death. It was this old man who had saved my life and that of hundreds of others in the Second World War. Yet for 50 years, we knew nothing about him.
4 children. This is his scrapbook. There are all kinds of fascinating pictures in it. Perhaps you can see, this is a picture of Nicholas Winton himself with one of the children he rescued. If you look at the very back of this scrapbook, fascinating things in it, all the letters. But back here is the list of all the children. This is Vera Diamant, now Vera Gissing. We did find her name on his list. Vera Gissing is with us here tonight. Hello, Vera. And I should tell you that you are actually sitting next to Nicholas Winton.
I wore this around my neck, and this is the actual pass that we were given to come to England. And I'm another of the children that you saved.
Can I ask, is there anyone in our audience tonight who owes their life to Nicholas Winton? If so, could you stand up, please?
Can you close your eyes? Let's pray.